Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. Another busy OPD day. The mother of the child who just walked out of this room, 5-year-old child, asked me a question that I'm asked very often. Is my child's weight normal? I just looked through the child's file and I said yes. Mother was not satisfied. She said, Isn't he underweight? I looked at the chart again and I said no. She said, Are you sure? I said, Well, yes. Then she said, But there are so many boys in his class who look bigger and healthier than him. I said, See, your child may not be big, but he's healthy. She was still not satisfied. So she asked me a question. What is the ideal weight at my child's age? Now, then I realized that I could not answer her in just yes or no answers. So, this is where science comes in. So, if you've opened your child's health file, you probably will have seen a pullout which looks something like this. There is a separate one for boys and a separate one for girls. If you've looked up your child's health file, you probably will have seen a graph which appears along with it. It's called as a growth graph or the growth chart. Now, this is a composite growth chart which lists three parameters: the weight, the height, and the head circumference. The head circumference is taken as an indirect measure of brain growth. Now, there's a separate one for boys and a separate one for girls. So, we will be concentrating on the weight for age graph. Now, in answering that woman's question, I had to refer to certain standards. Now, whenever you assess a child's weight and say whether it is normal or not, it is with reference to certain standards. Now, earlier we used to have different standards in different parts of the world, but now the World Health Organization has made things easier for us. You have a standardized WHO chart for children between the ages of 0 and 5 years. And almost all over the world, this is what is referred to. Now, if we look at the weight for age chart for boys, the normal weights are expressed in terms of a range. Now, these ranges are expressed as percentiles. For those who don't know what percentiles mean, it's like a ranking system, like a rank in your class, but in the reverse order. What does this mean? For example, if 100 kids are there in the class, they've all appeared for the same exam. The kid with the highest marks is given a slot of 100. The kids with the lowest mark is given a slot of 1. So the kid on the slot of 1, the marks of the kid on the slot of 1 is called the first percentile. The marks of the kid on the 100th slot is called as the 100th percentile. And the one who is in the 50th position is called the 50th percentile. So if you look at the weight for age chart, you will see at each age, there's a weight range which is given, which is bounded by two red lines. The lower red line signifies the third percentile for that age. The upper red line signifies the 97th percentile for age. Now, all weights coming in between these two red lines falls in what is called as a normal range. Now, anything above the 97th percentile range is called as overweight. Anything coming below the third percentile range is called as underweight. So, this is the basic fundamentals of a growth chart. Moving on, when you visit your pediatrician, the nurse will probably check the weight and plot it on this growth chart. So we have, say for instance, a child who weighs 3 kilos at birth. So on your first visit, the nurse will mark 3 kilos on the appropriate chart, which will look something like this. Your next visit is for immunization, say at the age of 2 months, by which time the child has reached a weight of 4.5 kilos. So the nurse now marks the point of 4.5 kilos at the age of 2 months. She will next draw a line between these 2 points. This is the beginning of the weight for age graph of your child. Now this will be done periodically during every visit so that you can monitor it against the existing standards. So coming back to the child who had just walked in, it was a 5-year-old boy. His weight was 14.7 kilos. Now, when I told the mother that the weight is normal, I had some science behind it. So I had plotted it on my chart. And this is where 14.7 stands. It is above the third percentile, which means it may be low, but the weight is normal. So if you notice here, at 5 years, the range of normality is pretty high. It is somewhere between 14.2 and around 23.8. So this child's weight is definitely normal. But what is more important is not the weight at one point in time, it is how the child has been growing. For instance, if this child had a weight of, say, around 7.5, 8 kilos at 1 year, and now it has come down to 14 kilos, that means the child has crossed the percentile lines, which means probably there's something wrong either with the nutrition or something has gone wrong with the child. Moving on, let's take one simple example. So, to take my point further, I'll illustrate the example of a child who had a low birth weight. So, here we are starting with the birth weight, which was just around the third percentile. Now, this child has been growing. Now, we've been plotting the child's growth curve. As you will see, he has more or less maintained his percentiles. He has remained a little above the third percentile, continuing till the age of about 1.5 years. So this is a normal growth for this child. The child was born with a low birth weight but has maintained the percentile. So I'm satisfied that the child is following a normal growth curve. Now let us see another situation. We have this child with the birth weight at around somewhere around the 15th percentile. Now this child has been growing reasonably well till the age of 6 months. He has almost reached his 50th percentile. But something happens after the age of 6 months. 6 months is the age at which we start complementary feeding, when we add solid foods to the child. Now, this mother, for some reason, stopped breastfeeding at the age of 6 months, and baby was started on complementary feeds. Now, these complementary feeds were probably not nutritionally adequate, so which is why you see his weight for age is dipping from the 50th centile, growing gradually down, reaching the 15th centile. So this is a situation which occurs with poor complementary feeding. Let us see another situation. Now here we have a child whose birth weight is pretty good. Okay, it's almost near 4 kilos, which is near about the, say, 90th centile for that age. But you'll see that the child is crossing towards the lower percentiles over the first 6 months. You can see the line has already reached the 50th percentile range at the age of 2 months. By the time the child is 6 months old, it has already touched the 15th percentile. Now, why has this happened? This has happened because the mother, for some reason, did not breastfeed a child, so she started giving cow milk, diluted cow milk. Now, the dilution was so much that the amount of nutrition going to the baby was not sufficient, which is why the baby, even though the baby is gaining weight, the baby is not gaining weight as per the baby's potential. Now, what happens after the age of 6 months when we started solid feeds for the child? Then we see an upswing in the growth curve. Now, you can see it has crossed beyond the 15th centile, gone up, going up, and it has reached the 50th centile by the age of about 1.5 years. So these are some of the situations we typically face with the weight for age chart. If you have any comments or any queries, please post them in the comment box. Thank you very much. See you again.